Welcome everybody after the break. This is BAC Tech Talk Day. My name is Michał Działowski. I'm QA Competence Manager at BAC, and we are just starting the quality assurance part. Today for you especially we've invited Jakub Rosiński. Jakub Rosiński is very experienced QA manager, tester, trainer, speaker. So it's really great to have you here. Thank you that you've accepted our invitation. Jakub today will tell you something about test automation, how to start, what to think about when you start this journey, and what not to forget about. Just after Jakub's presentation, we planned the discussion panel. So if you have any question to Jakub, don't hesitate and ask. So you can use chat box for that reason, and I will try to use that questions during discussion panel.
Awesome that you invited me. And guys, today I will be talking about everything you want to know before you start. And probably my presentation will be even more universal. We'll be talking about tooling, we'll be talking about introducing new approaches, but the biggest focus will be on test automation. And everything that we would like to know and we would like to be aware before we start our first test automation projects. So to talk about it, first let's discuss what automation really is. And almost everywhere else or in the industry, we usually use the word robotization. And that term has been used for years or decades already. And robotization is basically exchanging human labor into that done by robots. So usually wherever repetitive, routine, dangerous, or any of that kind tasks happen, we try or at least tend to use robotization. In IT, we of course have to call it differently. So it's RPA or robotic process automation. And then we're automating business processes. And actually testing is a sub-business process of producing software. So we're robotic process automating testing, and usually we call that test automation. And as you can see, I'm very like to reach to the original meaning, to the robotization. And the important keywords that I want us all to remember are repetitive and routine. So besides those impossible tasks that can only be done by robots, we usually try to use repetitive and routine tasks to be exchanged into something done by robots. And by robots, here I mean the PCs, robots. And second definition of automation that I really like is exchanging of something that works into something that almost works, but it's faster and cheaper. And in testing, it would be exchanging tests that test into tests that almost test, but are faster and cheaper. But are automated tests even real testing? And this is, I know, this is a philosophical question, but aren't those the best? So we would love test automation to be real testing, and this is why all around the world people are working on the AI into test automation, or properly we should call it out of PowerPoint, the machine learning. But still, we are not there yet. And for me, automated tests, and especially automated test execution, is not real testing. Why? And I would like to bow to two great gentlemen, Mr. Buck and Bolton, for really pointing out the difference between testing and checking, or subtracting checking from testing, because that enforces or focuses our point of view on that automated tests can't think. And this is the crucial part that we people can do and test automation can't. So to show the difference, the testing, the whole testing process, as described by those two gentlemen, is learning, experimenting, studying, questioning, modeling, interfering with the testing product. And all of that together is testing and checking. So basically executing the designed test and just comparing gathered results with those expected ones is checking. And there is no, in that matter alone, there is no difference between checking and human checking and machine checking. So this is only the sub part of the whole process. The other difference, and this is something that I argue with the biggest minds of testing sometimes, but still I keep my, my thinking about it. What is the real goal of test automation? And the most important part of that question is the goal of test automation to really find defects? I mean, of course, test automation sometimes finds defects. Every test sometimes finds a defect. And this is a proper approach to it, and this is a proper result. But is that really a goal of test automation? And I would say that especially for regression tests, and let's say that probably we all might agree that most of the test automation is regression testing, the goal of test automation is really to confirm that we didn't break anything that already worked. So actually, it's a bit like acceptance testing that wants to confirm that it works instead of really finding defects. Of course, the test automation can be a quality gate. It can help us with understanding whether nothing is broken, but the goal is a bit different. And because the goal is a bit different, we tend to work with it a bit differently. It's completely different when we're talking about designing and scripting test automation, because that part is this human thinking and experimenting, trying, designing. This part might find the defects. So it's great to design and work with test automation in that matter, but once we are there, the goal switches a bit. And it's worth to remember that. I kind of feel like I can bet that you don't remember ISTQB Foundation Level Chapter 6. This is the shortest chapter that only has 2 questions on the exam, and because of that, usually everyone skips it. And this is a chapter about tooling, and this is an awesome chapter that does not really mention any particular tool. So, I mean, I understand why you skip it. However, I think last 2 sub-chapters of that are really very true. They talk about test automation or introducing new tooling in a very from a very good point of view. And it shows that, of course, we can have advantages of test automation, which is, of course, reducing manual labor. The robots can do things for us. Sorry, that's something on me. We have objective ratings. So every time we run the same test, it's going to have the same result. And no matter who made the change, the automated test will compare the results the same way. And I'm always saying the example, I'm not very proud of it, but it's a good example, of a developer who told the whole team that testers are not necessary. Actually, his code never has problems, and we waste time testing his code. And because of that, usually he had the most defects created in bug tracking software, because all of us testers wanted to show him that he's wrong. And that's the non-objective part. Tooling is not doing that. And we have constant logic and schedule. I mean, we don't have the own approach of new tester. We don't have, today I don't feel like doing regression tests. If I do regression tests, the same regression test set one day more, I'm gonna lose my mind. No, robots and computers don't mind. They will do it again and again, same day, same time, every day, same time. But unfortunately, we have quite a lot of disadvantages regarding test automation. And those are usually unrealistic expectations. And fortunately, this is a joke now that, okay, let's automate everything and then we can fire all the testers. I think no one is thinking that anymore. But still, the expectations towards test automation are usually very high and not really close to reality. And kind of connected with the previous one, we have underestimating. And we are underestimating every part of test automation. The implementation, the maintenance, and actually how easy or not it is to get the positive return of investment. And this is what we should aim towards, right? Especially if we're trying to get to the managerial position, we should be looking at how positive or negative return of that investment of creating and using test automation is. The last one, also kind of connected with the first one, is dependence. And we tend, or at least some of us, tend to try to automate everything. And once we try to automate everything, very often we really waste time and we don't get this positive value out of that testing. And if you're interested, look into the ISTQB Foundation level syllabi, chapter 6. There are few more there, but those, for me, I think are most important and most forgotten usually. So I told you what are the drawbacks, the bad parts of test automation. So let's get to the what to automate part, the more positive part. So I agree, robots should cover repeatable tasks like regression tests, especially smoke tests. So every test that we run very often, every day or every release or every build, however it is in your case, this is the best part to let people mental health breathe even better by not repeating the same and the same tasks over and over again. And the manually hard or impossible tasks. This is actually the true power of test automation, that something that is very hard or even impossible to be done manually is something that robots, computers can do for us. And those can be efficiency tests like performance or load tests. And of course, I know those stories of getting the whole companies into the training rooms, like huge, industry halls, and asking them to click at the same time, all 500 or 1,000 of you. But I mean, we don't do it anymore. We have robots for that. Configuration of test environments. And probably some of those we can do manually, but a lot of that is hard and requires a lot of scripting, a lot of things to be remembered. And imagine that you did half of your test set and you realize that your environment is configured incorrectly. So now you have to configure it and redone the tests again. Once you automated test environment configuration, you don't care. And last but not least is test data. Either it is creation or grabbing test data from somewhere, or is it comparing a lot of test data. Again, wonderful term, data-driven testing. Whenever you want to work with a lot of data or be consistent with the data that you're having, the automation and scripting of those is a crucial thing that you can use. But whatever you thought so far, whichever automated test you imagined so far, remember that that's not all. We have test levels. We have multiple test levels, and we can test on each and every of those test levels. We have unit tests, we have integration tests, unit integration tests. We might have component tests as whole integrated set of units. We have components integration tests. We have whole system, and our system can integrate with other systems. And then we have acceptance testing. So not every testing is on a GUI level. Not every testing really requires graphic interface or testing on the same level that users is looking onto our application. So please remember that whenever you can test earlier, it's probably better. And there are a lot of quality characteristics. I mentioned efficiency testing. I mentioned functional testing. But what about for example, compatibility testing? Whenever you have software that should work on multiple operating systems or working with multiple different third-party tools, you need to check that as well. This is nowadays, especially if you're working with mobile applications, this is thousands of possibilities. Do you want to do that manually? So, practices. And again, I just wanted to remind you that we are back at we are still at the ISTQB level, chapter 6. The good and bad approaches to introducing or using test automation in our environments, in our companies, in our projects. Every one of us went to a conference or a meetup or watched a YouTube video about how awesome this new tool is. about how wonderful results someone got with the presented tool or language or whatever, library. But that doesn't mean that it's gonna work same good for you. Because you don't know, or usually you don't know the whole context. You don't know the whole landscape of their systems, projects, people involved. And as much as I love BDD and Cucumber and using that in the projects, I would say that a lot of those projects are using Cucumber unnecessarily because no one from the business side, for example, is involved in creation of those scenarios. And if it's happening, why? Why do we maintain this additional layer of code? So tools that are working great for others don't have to work that great for you. They might, but you don't know that yet. So I would say that it is most important to think about your sins and strengths and think about your expectations and needs. And once you have all that covered, you have it written down or just keep that in your head, then you can search for a tool fulfilling those needs. Not, oh, you're using that, I'm gonna try that as well. No, first think about what you need and then ask, hey, is that tool doing it? Once you find that tool that is fulfilling your needs, you can either just decide, okay, we're doing it. We're using that tool, we're using it for projects, we're getting the most value out of it we can and implement in whole company, or we can do proof of concept. We can learn the tool. We can learn the needs of our processes tuning. We can now estimate the return of investment and consider whether it's really fulfilling our needs, not only on the functional level of our needs, but also not using too much of our resources, and I'm talking about software, hardware, and not putting too much pressure or work on our peers. And once you do that and check and you decide that yes, the return of investment is great, the value the tool provides is awesome, you can send email to the whole company, okay, we have that great tool, let's use it, period. I wonder if you ever got an email like that and how happy and thrilled you were to actually start using new tool. Because from my experience, maybe two most geeky people in the company will check them and no one will start using them. So you have to invest your time, your force, your power, your energy into propagation of that tool in your projects, companies, whoever you want to propagate tool towards. Because if you're not gonna do that and work on that, usually people are not gonna be that thrilled about new tool as you are. The great way of it is to show by example, present your own learnings from POC, from your everyday project work, and ask them to do the POC of their own, and then monitor how they are doing, and is it really a positive value for them. So of course, try to focus on the good ones. Learn your needs, then try the tool, try to align your processes try to align tool to your landscape and processes, and invest and be ready to invest your time and your power into getting the tool in. And by invest, I mean be ready that you have to stop. It will be impossible to don't stop and actually exchange the tool on the go. Because, I mean, I'm really sure that some of you are, but most of us are not F1 racing team. We are not changing tires in 4 seconds or 9 or whatever that is. We need to slow down, stop, to make sure that then we will be able to go faster. And that's the investment we need to make. Another, and this one is really connected with underestimation. Another one is when you decide that, hey, it's the time to really automate my task. And you start to believe, oh my God, that's so awesome. I'm gonna automate it, and then I will have a lot of free time because my actual work will drop a lot because, you know, everything will happen on its own. It won't. It will never do that how you expect it. Never. So it's gonna be a never-ending task, a real commitment of investment into the automation and getting this first even fulfilling the original need, but then also providing the positive return of investment. So don't get as on the picture I'm showing, don't get to this moment where there is no time for original task anymore. Please look for help or ask someone for help, or don't be afraid sometimes to just drop it. Sometimes it's not worth it, and I'm gonna get to it in a moment. Another extremely important thing is that you have to really learn to test. And I know there are test automation engineer or software developers in test. And those are people that want to code only or automate only. Sure, but you have to find someone that will learn to test for you. I know this might be a team effort. It's even better when it is, but still someone has to learn to test. Second one, wait for any stability. Especially on graphic interface level, we don't want to write tests or invest our time and effort into something that will be changing all over again. Those examples that I showed of automation not really working as expected, they are already on quite stable environments. So when you add unstable environment to that, it's only worse. So more work, more actual tasks done, and more involvement. So wait for stability. Discuss it with the team. Look for those places where there are some stable elements, but automate only after that. And plan and select best tests. You don't have to automate everything. As I said previously, you don't want to fully depend on automation. So it's good to select best tests. And what are best tests, you're gonna ask? This is an awesome question, and the only proper answer is it depends. And it depends on your context, on your situation, your project. I can give you some examples because maybe the white coverage is the best approach to your test automation. So maybe something like smoke tests. So you're gonna test a lot of different functionalities if they are even starting, but don't check their logic very deeply, but that's okay. You just want to make sure that it's worth to even start. Maybe best tests for you are those most risky one. And of course, I mean not going on the line over some rocks, but rather the product risks. So those that might give the biggest negative impact if that functionality is not working. Maybe it's all about the money, and then you're looking for high return of investment. So those tests that are giving the maybe biggest savings are the best tests to automate in your context. Maybe it's worth to automate those tests that are easiest to automate, because without much effort or in comparison to other tests, those will be the easiest to automate, and then you will free some of the testers' time to do different things or to learn better automation and then automate those harder. Of course, very similar to the white coverage or the smoke test or regression test, the most frequently running tests. This is extremely typical approach. If you're gonna do the same test for 100 times, you're probably dying a bit inside. And we don't want anyone to die inside on their job. I mean, you're testers, you're happy, wonderful people. Please enforce it and automate the most frequently done tests. And again, last but not least, impossible, hard, or extremely expensive manually tests. This is the superpower of automation, something that you cannot do differently. And learn to test. What does it mean, learn to test? Why learn to test when you can automate in an awesome manner without learning to test? I mean, of course, right? You can, maybe even your code gonna be very good, but automated chaos is just chaos done faster. And this is an absolutely wonderful quote by Dorothy Graham, and I can't agree more. If your tests are crappy, running it faster and more often will not change anything. We're still doing crappy testing. And I promised to get back to that, so here it is. Are you even sure? Are you even sure that you are gonna, that it is worth to automate? Or are you even sure that you want to automate things? I think this is the again, wonderful chart that shows comparison between manual and automated testing. Manual is slow but steady until someone is extremely bored, and then it starts to slow down. But from the beginning, you can start early and progress. With automation, you have to learn, you have to find the tool, and even once you have that, you need to learn how to automate this specific tool, project, whatever. And once you have that, you're gonna start automating, learn that actually everything you tried is wrong, delete everything, stop your progress, gonna get angry and nervous and think about throwing away your laptop and changing jobs. And then you're gonna learn that it actually worked. And it's fast, awesome, and wonderful, much faster than manual testing, and never gets bored. But you have to have a project that will cross this moment, right? That you have to have a project that crosses the moment in time when actually the effort needed to put into running test automation and running it makes things faster and bringing more value than manual testing itself. So it's more worth in longer projects, in projects in which we believe we're gonna really have multiple rounds of regression testing, multiple sprints or whatever. So think about it, but also think about projects in which it's not worth it because the effort would be so huge to properly automate things, then maybe it's worth to use a hybrid approach. Oh my God, this is horrible, right? I'm in the office and you're online and this is hybrid as well. I hate it after 2 years already. So back to it. I once worked with a project in which I had to check 3D renderings of the insides of the buses, the interiors of the buses that were configured in some way. And I even checked those visual comparison tools, but because the 3D rendering library was changing quite often, and for example, glass was rendering a bit differently in each of them, it was never-ending failures, and which required manual checking and then wondering whether we need to update the original visualization or not, or maybe will it change back. So the approach that we did, or we went with, was to automatically render images but then view them manually with our eyes. So generation, sure, automated, but then just going through the pictures was actually a manual work of 5 minutes every second morning or so. And please remember that testing is a supportive activity. And what do I mean by that? That even when you have best testers and best tools and best approach, you cannot test quality into the project, into your product. The quality itself has to be built in the product. So you need business analysts, product owners, developers, and testers as a support for that to really build test quality, to really build quality into the product. So remember that we are talking about teamwork, and someone, but I mean we testers or quality assurance people are usually coaches, prophets, evangelists, or call it whatever you like, of quality and looking at quality and testing from the very beginning in the projects. But I can't agree more with what Scrum is saying, that everyone is responsible for quality. So what I'm asking you, get involved. Even if you're not able to unit test yourself, be part of it. Talk with developers, plan tests, design tests, pair program with developer, be developer's rubber duck, and maybe more active one, and ask some questions. You can check coverage. As an example, in my current company, the testers are responsible for Sonar. So we are actually checking the coverage of new code. We are checking the quality gates and so on. And maybe, just maybe, start learning to code. and actually get involved on a practical level as well. Why not? And the last presentation was about mainframes. And again, talk with people who are working there. Discuss, exchange ideas, brainstorm about how to test as early as possible, because any test is better than none. Higher, when we have actual components or services, one of which can be database, we can easily start to work with those. We can either use tools or maybe ask someone, a developer, to write a simple tool like a just web page visualization of API. Or again, learn a bit and start designing and thinking about testing on those lower levels. Database schemas, are they back compatible? Are the changes made breaking changes? Same with the API stuff. You can do all that quite easily without much effort, without much change to how you do things. And once you have stable GUI, yeah, right. But once you have stable graphic user interface, please think about covering more customer perspective scenarios there. The logic of single components should be tested earlier. You don't have to compare it again. So I remind you, I showed you test pyramid. I was talking about levels then. But yeah, more tests earlier is good approach. So any technical testing, checking schemas, making sure that the data even flows through the network to the graphic user interface. All of that can be done without it. And remind your front-end developers that front-ends have unit tests too. Work with those. Reminder, I mentioned it multiple times, not only testing can be automated. There is data creation, configurations, setups, some helping tools, or maybe extracts. When you use API to extract data, a lot of data into Excel file and just compare it a huge amount automatically with macros or whatever, or manually. Even more important reminder, don't only think about functional testing. There is much more quality characteristics than functionality. And sometimes the feeling of quality of your customers actually comes from those non-functional characteristics. And remember that test automation is a process. It's not a task that you do and finish. It's something that evolves, changes, has to be done constantly throughout the project. But also, it's not only about running and designing those tests. It's about putting them into pipelines. It's about starting and running them automatically in continuous integration. It's about putting quality gates. So actually utilizing the results of that tests for something, right? You're not testing for testing itself. It's for someone. It's information that someone should be using for something. So create reports that can be easily gathered, that can be understood by someone who will use them and make decision based on those. So it can be posting the results to Slack channel, but it can be just, posting a report somewhere online. So once you're at this place where you have everything automated, and what now? And everything I have to say is that it's never done. I mean, you can always improve. You can always improve your tests. You can improve their stability, the coverage. You can think whether all tests are necessary, whether there are any new tests that can be added to this set. All of that is extremely, extremely important as well. And we should test manually too, because we are still humans and we are doing the testing and not only checking. So explore the system, learn from it, learn the system, learn the tooling, get familiar with it. It will help your test automation, but it will also help the system itself. So you can also assist the customer or the users during the user acceptance test, because that will actually help you not only learn about the system or product, but about the domain. And this is the superpower of human manual testing. And please remember, there is no such thing as manual coding. So let's call it testing. And that was me, Jakub Rosiński. You can find me all around the internet under my nickname, Kupcio. I'm a tester, leader, and manager currently at migo.money. I'm a critic, certified tester, and trainer of ISTQB in that order. And father and husband, also motorcyclist. I do enduro traveling whenever it's weather for that and I have time. And I'm a CEO of YouTube channel Testytka, unfortunately Polish only. However, I do invite you there very muchly. Thank you.